So what do you think is the most important aspect of Let's Playing? For example, commentary, audio-video quality, or the quality of the commentary?
I think it's the things that you bring to it, because if you have a story about a time where Paper Mario glitched out, the music started playing backwards, and you fell through the floor, and hey, this is the spot where that happened, there's no one else out there that's going to have that same story of, like, what happened to you. There's going to be... I think that if you have personal attachment to it, it adds a lot to the video. I think that stories definitely do a lot and definitely humanize the video a lot more. That's just how I personally feel, and that's why I try to talk about those things whenever they are relevant to what I'm talking about.
So it's more so just the personality of the person that's being brought to life in the commentary.
That's what I think.
And kind of on that, different channels seem to kind of have varying opinions on what the appropriate length of time each episode should be. And some people think 10 minutes is appropriate. Other think maybe 20 or more. Is video length an important issue to take note of as you record an episode?
There's certainly a such thing as a video not having enough content and a video having too much content. But I think that people get too caught up in the numbers, like trying to shoot for every video to be around 15 minutes or around 20 minutes. It's nice when it can be a good length, but what I like to do is I try to make it so that every video has a good beginning, middle, and end. And so that every video ends at what I see as a good stopping point. Like, perhaps we have explored in full a whole major area in the game's world and done everything that we can do in it. So, okay, good stopping point, because after this area, we're entering a dungeon, and that's going to take a while to clear. Okay. And then the dungeon can be the next video or something like that. That's usually how I like to do things, but there's times where that does make for really long videos, or in some cases really short videos. There have been a lot of tough calls where I'm like, okay, this video is like 13 minutes right now, but it's a good stopping point, and we have like a 25-minute dungeon ahead of us. So I think we're gonna stop here, just because I don't think we're gonna have a good stopping point for a while from now.
Right.
So there's been tough calls like that. Of course, there are always people that complain, saying like, man, that's disappointing, you only posted this many minutes today. But I generally try to make it a good beginning, middle, and end. That was another thing that Xenoblade taught me, was that with it being such a long game, I didn't want it to be a thing where if you happen to catch just a random episode of it, you'd feel like you were in the middle of a huge, like, 10-year-long soap opera. That a video that you just jumped in and watched, if you just happened to find it on YouTube, it would have a good beginning, middle, and end, where at the beginning of the episode some conflict would be introduced, and then by the end of the video it would be resolved or expanded upon. There might be something else, like we begin a side quest chain at the beginning of the video, and the end of the video is us wrapping up that side quest chain and revealing another plot detail. Or maybe the side quest chain would have its own self-contained story separate from everything else.
Right.
That was something that taught me, was that Xenoblade taught me that, especially with a game that big, you can't let the number of minutes get in the way of what you're doing. It's got to have a good beginning, middle, and end so that somebody can enjoy this video on its own merits. Even though it is part of a much bigger, much grander story that is best experienced from beginning to end in continuity, it still does have to be something that somebody can enjoy and doesn't have to watch like 50 hours to be able to enjoy before going in.
Right. It's not a quota, really.
Yeah, and there's also a reason why I do try to... Also in the case of Let's Plays, I try to make it so that if I'm doing a sequel, you don't need to watch the original Let's Play or play the original game to be able to understand what's going on. Because if that's the case, you're basically saying that, well, okay, here's this new Let's Play, here's what you've been waiting for the past month. By the way, you have to watch 60 hours of a game you don't really care all that much about to be able to watch this. So I try to generally avoid that. I try to make it so that... I might compare it to other games at some points where it's, especially relevant to what's going on. Like, okay, this is a very big reference to the original right here, but I try to not rely on talking about another game in the series too much because of that as well.
Right.